And I hope you contemplated and considered what in a sense called the personal space or the intimate space, which actually is quite fairly flexible. We can include others in it, or it can be quite constricted. And it really depends on the degree of, it's very much related to the jitta's experience of the world around. So if we feel very open and confident, it's quite a large zone. We can include a lot. Feel frightened or nervous or defensive, then it gets very contracted. So it's environmental, by which I mean psychologically or emotionally environmental, what we sense around us, what we sense we're in. Yeah. And that occurs beyond, dependent on what particular signs or triggers or meanings we experience, chitta experiences in the world around, we experience something that causes alarm or fear, and there's a ripple. Something that experience something that is fascinating, it becomes extremely galvanized, something really intense. It's compassionate and loving, it goes very wide and boundless and quite serene, spacious. Such that people enjoy being with people who've developed a lot, because they just exude an atmosphere that you can feel of peace and serenity and warmth and stillness, these kind of qualities, and you definitely feel it even not saying anything, you can still feel the presence. So this is definitely an experienceable phenomenon. Yeah. So and our body, our physical body kind of sits within that. So it's like a field, an energetic field, and our body sits within it. If you kind of always recognize these depictions of Buddha and so forth, it's all the kind of radiance, they try to paint it or make it so that, because it almost feels like it's got a luminosity to it, and people would remark upon that. And it's not sensory, but it's felt radiance, not visual, but it's a felt luminosity or radiance or clarity or openness and spaciousness, that when you experience it, and the fact you can experience it. And it's associated when there are skillful states. And this is the meaning of it. It's not just an interesting little bit of gimmickry, but when there are skillful states, it tends to become more expansive and comfortable and inclusive. When there are unskillful states, it gets agitated, tight, contaminated. And that's the way and you can feel these. So the way that you know that is when you're feeling some sense of tension or restrictions, or extremely isolated alone, which in some ways you could say is a physical fact, but actually it's not a psychological fact. Physically this body is not anybody else's body, but psychologically you can't really say, you certainly are affected and infused and by the goodwill and the ill will and the conditioning and the culture and the people around you. So you're all mingled in with that, so psychologically you're not separate. Physically you are, psychologically you're not. This is why we're so kind of affected, and often we pick up the habits and the trends of other people or other beings. We get steered along by it. This is very evident for good and for bad, unfortunately. And to the extent also which nowadays we get that sort of same sort of psychological bond to non-human beings, non-animate beings, like people have just a strong bond to their phones. So a lot of your kind of input comes from telecommunications, from your phone. It's actually a warmer relationship with your phone than you have with the person. Because they generally sort of do what you want, and they don't. They're a bit of a nuisance, but they're not half as bad as a human. And they kind of got a nice glow to them. So, and then you take on their reality, which unfortunately is very much one click and then it goes. Get this done, boom, and there you go. And then zip, and happens fast. And human beings, they don't do that. And this is unfortunate because we don't actually learn to navigate the human domain, the animated domain. It's much more, it hasn't got these same straight lines and zip responses. It's much more moderated, and some things take a long time, some things happen slowly. Dawn rises at this speed, creatures move around, they don't go in straight lines. And that's the animated reality. And that's actually the healthy one, because that's where our own bodies arise from. Our own neurology is associated with that, our emotions are associated with that. Our emotional responses are to do with empathy and warmth and care and concern. Those are not one click. And they can be very, and they're actually lifesavers, because it's those senses of integrity, moral conscience, concern, loving kindness, compassion. Those are they're long term, and they keep things steady. And they're not just one click. They have to be tended, cared for, strengthened, refreshed. Otherwise, they just wear out. You can't throw one set away and get a new set. You've got to kind of constantly rebuild these connections and compassions and these qualities in oneself in order to maintain a properly balanced space, personal space, personal quality, intimate quality. When I say space, I don't mean it's like an emptiness. I mean it's just not got a physical form to it, and it's shiftable, and it can have many things occur within it or nothing occur within it. It remains, So it's an availability, and it extends beyond this physical form. It extends beyond our psychological forms, our ideas and thoughts. It's necessary that is the foundation that becomes cleared, illuminated, unrestricted in full awakening, to dark that dwells with unrestricted in terms of this. And it can be called awareness or presence. These are other terms that occur within it. And it's not purely, what I like to say, it's not purely a kind of a psychological quality, it's actually a felt somatic quality as well. That's why we can sense it in others. Unrestricted, unrestricted by form, so it's not something that's contained within a form, not inside my body, it's not inside any entity. It's unrestricted in that respect. Where the body changes, ages, sickens, it's not restricted by that. Unrestricted by feeling, pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling. We'd rather have pleasant feeling. Also, unpleasant feeling can be with that. allows feeling to move through it. Perceptions, meanings, such as I'm useless, I'm wonderful, the world is terrible, the world is great, she's fantastic, he's an idiot, this is beautiful, that's gorgeous. Doesn't really partake of those, it allows those to arise, move through it. It's not restricted, it doesn't hang on to any perception of self and other. There's no biases in that respect. There's no perception, meaning. These people count, these people don't count. These are the good guys, these are the bad guys. Doesn't do that. So it's universally available. Unrestricted by volitions and impulses. So we have these impulses towards, urgency or desire, fear, agitation, worry. It's kind of flaring impulses, and it's not caught up with that, but it also acknowledges it. So it can sense these without being contracted, without getting activated. Unrestricted by consciousness, so sight, sound, so forth. It's not an issue. So we don't place isn't placed inside the sense world, sight, sounds, thoughts. It's not unrestricted by defilement, or obstructions, by aging, sickness, death, suffering. This means, these are all very concrete terms, so it doesn't mean there's no awareness of all these, but it's because there is awareness of these, and yet it's not shaken or contracted. In other words, normally when we get a sense of anxiety occurs, there's a volitional twitch and we start trying to get secure. Well, hang on, what's going on? Where am I supposed to be? That's that reaction. Now what if there was that sense of insecurity and uncertainty? It's just, what's happening? Is this energy moving through the system? It's getting activated. Here I am, where I always was. You see what I mean? Rather than defense, lashing out, trying to grab a position. So this, so it allows these because it doesn't not allow them. It doesn't do that, but it's not restricted into this compulsive reflex of, And what's that compulsive reflex? What's the end result of it? I am the solid bit. I have extracted myself. I've got the secure place. And that's the end result of that reflex pattern. Feel insecure, feel nervous, so I get this, feel confident, I'm okay, now I'm fine. So that's quite a natural and normal reaction. Isn't it? But the end result is it, I'm okay, I'm fine, I'm stable. Sounds quite sensible, except, when you look at, you change the word, look at the word security again and talk about global security, and you recognise global security generally means bombing. So that we'll be okay. It sounds kind of, unfortunately, we call it defense rather than aggression, but that makes it better. Still bombing. Okay. That's a bit uncomfortable, isn't it? That's an extreme example. You know. But then, of course, security against other creatures. So that's why we've killed them all. Those we haven't killed, we've enslaved. A few left, but make sure, that sharks don't attack humans. That's terrible. Humans wiping out a few million sharks, that's okay, but sharks eating 4 people, that's really dangerous. I'm not so sure about that. As a paradigm, how secure do you have to be? How insecure can you be and yet still hold it together? And this, so looking just in taking that one word, security, safe and comfortable, and so normal, so absolutely essential. This is what, in a way, the citta is constantly seeking, so that it can acquire a sense of homeostasis. It means it's comfortable within its environment, it's balanced, it's no longer having to deal with anything. So it can be unrestricted. It seeks to be that unrestricted. The problem is that we try to be unrestricted in the wrong field. So the unrestricted is actually in this field of presence, awareness, what I call the intimate space. But it's not going to be found in sights, sounds, places, territories, buildings, ideologies, theories. It can't be found there. Right? So we might try to find security through a certain belief system. Often people search for gods, some god to make things okay, to keep things together, somebody's got an eye on everything and helps us out. God's up there overseeing it all, help us out. God, could you wake up please? We could do it with a hand. Because I'm going so well. He's not doing a very good job. So we seek that, we can make sense of it all, so we can transpose that need for security to some higher being. And perhaps otherwise we transpose it to our governments, and they obviously can't do it either. Or we transfer it to our parents, and how much could they manage? Or we transfer it to our partner, and how much can she or he manage to make me feel secure and steady? Is that what we're here for? And then you contemplate in your own intimate realm, recognizing we're in a phenomenon of aging, vulnerability, sickness. Some virus could knock us off any day, or cancer could burst out, or something can go wrong. And of course, the sense of being threatened or overwhelmed by others, bullied, browbeaten, pushed around. And then even you realise your own, will ever get dementia, something like that, which probably some of us will, statistically almost inevitable. Could be me. You can't basically put things together anymore. How can you stop that happening? So we realize there's no way out of insecurity. We learn to meet insecurity. Learn to meet insecurity. What does that mean? It means you get that twitch, that edgy, wobbly sense where the mind wavers and looks for something, and you just pause, stay there, and open. You know, because at the place where you do meet this, not so much the topic, the war or the disease or whatever, so much as that nervy feel that occurs. Because at that place where you really come closer to that nervy feel, then that actually is the place where it's possible to sense, oh yeah, what's happening is something is contracting, trying to find a firm place to hold on to. And what about if that which tries to protect or contract could actually do the opposite, relax and open? So the field of that is secure. The opening opens to a place of stability. The citta is stabilized in itself rather than in the things that affect it. So you see, just take that again, we get a feeling insecurity, okay, I'll phone somebody, I'll get one of these, I'll make sure I get an insurance policy. Yeah, that's all fine, practical. But it won't take away the insecurity. Will it? Because okay, you've got the insurance policy. What happens if the insurance brokers go bust? Right, good point. Better get another one. You've got your local GP. What if the GPs, like a lot of them, just retire and don't get proper medical service? Yeah, that's good. I better recognise that. Well, what about if you've got your vitamin A, D, K, G, B, F, Q, you're taking ginseng, ginger, pickled roots and everything to keep you going. Or maybe do some acupuncture, do the whole thing. Oh, I have to keep this thing going, And then it could be one thing I'm missing out on, which was, stewed orris fruit. And that's why I need to keep my endocrine system actually Yeah, I get it. It's good to look after this thing, but at what point just say, look, meet the fear. Meet the fear instead. That wavery, quavery sense. And then, because at that, actually where you meet it, where it's gone quite internalized, there's a very sensitive place. Because it is really the prime nerve for the citta is security. Security and happiness. Pleasure and security. So security, probably security even more significant than happiness and pleasure. Pleasure is possible, security is essential. So we reach that place. And in that place, I do not know, I cannot know. And then rather than the me, which is the end result, the me, the frightened, the nervous, the insecure me with the enemies around or within or the diseases or the people or whatever, rather than being that scenario, let go of the me bit and just feel the feeling, and then just start to wind your awareness around an experience. And there's the security in that opening. And the rest of it, we still don't know. And we have to recognize, actually, this sensory world is insecure. It is that way. And our physical incarnation is insecure. there's a point in which you really have to accept that. And that becomes more possible when you know you've got something else to go to. Yeah. And you've got something else to go to, which is that widening presence, awareness, what I call the intimate space. Because, and again in the realizations of the Buddha, he says, well, that's actually where you do go when you die. When this thing passes. And whatever's in that quality, if it's still got contaminations in it, they determine where you can take form again. You've still got the fear, the rage, the guilt, the craving. They're going to carry you to the place where that keeps going, Right? But what we know right now, we don't have to wait because as we probably, those of you who cultivated, recognize how some of these patterns and processes continue from one scenario to another. Yeah. So, one can feel guilty and inadequate at the age of 12, do all kinds of stuff, and then feel guilty and inadequate at the age of 20, do all kinds of things, and feel guilty and inadequate at the age of 30, do a few more kind of things, and then feel guilty and inadequate at the age of 50. Because the root pattern, if the root pattern isn't penetrated, then it still remains like a primary seed, no matter how you address the topics, no matter how much affirmation or praise or status or renown or skills you develop, still that feeling pertains. This means we have to be pretty able to meet some of this intimate stuff directly, and that takes, there's the transformation. It's a sort of a change of direction, change of view. The territory means a very intimate, means no separation from it. Feel the feeling as the feeling, without a judgment or an assessment or a strategy, other than just to feel and let the feeling itself invites sympathy. So the damage bit, actually by that bit, at a certain point we're no longer concealing it or covering it, it somehow invites or evokes a sympathetic response from the citta, which is not personal. It's not like me practicing metta with it, it's just there is. The citta by itself brings forth. Just like if you cut your body, the body will immediately go to it and start healing it. Of course we want to put bandages on it, medicine on it and so forth, but it's the body that does the healing. The rest of it just prevents further damage. Yeah. So clearly our personality can say to certain things, I'm just not secure in, damage control, don't want to get, but also I have to do the healing. I just can't walk around in bandages for all my life. Now, so it requires that intimacy, that directness, and strength. This is where it's so, and these this potential for transformation. We get the idea, but actually the doing of it, what it takes for the citta to have that capacity to be present with intimate insecurity. You have to develop resources, and resources are not purely certainly not ideas. Ideas are useful to point us to the territory. What has to build up is, well, the resources of citta and the resources of the body, or what I call the somatic body or the energy body, because that's where the shake begins, that's where the shiver starts, right? That's where the jump happens. It's almost pre-conscious. I think one of those things that, in terms of human history or human cultures is in experiments. I think the psychologist William James said, if you meet a bear, the first thing you do is run, then you get frightened. Because the first thing is the body says, let's get out, we'll deal with the feeling later. So the first impact is the shock and the reaction, and then it comes the emotion. So in a way the body leads. And you may have, I don't know, had experiences of danger or accident or car crashes, or what generally happens is the body takes over and gets you out, and then you feel the panic and the grief and the shock comes after. So the citta picks up, but the original signal went straight to the somatic body, which organised exit. Yeah. So there's where we're talking about reflex level. So we want then that potential for these very potent reflexes to occur, and of course they occur for our welfare. Also they occur when people really lose, what I call lose control, and go berserk. So I get into a fit of violence where the whole thing is just, takes over. So that somatic presence needs to be steadied and healed as a support for the citta, so that we can receive these signals of being affronted without that escalation of reactivity and reflex. Yeah. Okay, so using the somatic or energetic body, subtle body, entering it, clearing it, steadying it as a resource for citta. And of course, because the two tend to work together, the citta can certainly bring its qualities of goodwill, which is the essential atmosphere. Means we avoid the blaming, the criticizing, the negation of ourselves, the dismissal, the sense you're inadequate. Those voices may very well occur. You're inadequate, you can't do this, somebody's better than you. Yeah, I've heard it. Okay, so listen to hear that and let pass through. Here we are. There's the listening to that. I'm not shaken by that. Good. And then instead the result is just, well, if that's what's happening to you, surely the response should be assurance. Come on, just take it down. Nobody's judging you. Just hold it carefully. If they are judging you, that's their problem, not yours. Yeah. So creating that field of, we say, relative safety, and citta's response to do that, and to keep the sense of wakefulness. Like, don't not just physically doze off, but don't just go into not casual, but just keep fresh, keep zestful, keep inquiring. Don't believe in the mood. It's okay, it's that. Even the happy mood, or the serene mood. This is going to shift too. So let's just, keep that sense of acceptance. We accept all, we don't adopt anything. And we don't reject anything.